Folks, welcome back to Flat Irons Tuning. It is time for the Suba news for the fourth and final week of March 2026. This is a big one. There's a ton to cover here. A lot has happened because Subaru has now run in the first Super Taikyu race. They've also announced that they're discontinuing the WRX. They might have confirmed that the STI is coming out and that they're getting back into the WRC. Tons to get into. So much has happened. We're going to dive right into it real quick at the front. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that hype button. Let's just dive into it. All right, so first, Subaru is discontinuing the WRX in Japan as of May of this year. There's been some rumblings about this, a lot of concern, but I think this all makes sense because they've announced that basically what was the WRX is now going to be our WRX TR that they're calling the STI Sport Sharp. It seems like they're just replacing one for the other. So the WRX is being replaced by the STI that we know as the WRX TR and TS. I think that's all that there is to that. But there's big changes afoot. We're going to get to that here in a second. But I don't think I'm that concerned about the ending of the WRX in the Japanese market for a lot of reasons, which we're going to get to. Now, the Super Taikyu race happened Saturday and Sunday this weekend. The Super Taikyu car was there, and it did pretty well. Sounds like I think they finished second in class, but there's not very many cars in their class. They were beat by I think it's the Yaris M, which this is the mid-engine Yaris that Toyota is testing. But it was just a couple seconds off their pace. It sounds like the test went well. Now, what has happened is that Subaru had basically an announcement, a motorsports announcement or a press conference at the Super Taikyu race. They dropped some huge information that we're going to get to. But about the STI Concept-B specifically, they basically have referred to it as a future production car. Some reporters got some walkarounds of this car, and it sounds like the Subaru engineers were saying that the engine in the Super Taikyu car could make up to 500 horsepower, but in race trim, it's making 375 horsepower. Now, these Super Taikyu races are 4 hours long. There's 4 drivers, they're endurance races. So they're basically beating the snot out of this car for 4 hours straight at 375 horsepower. You look in the engine bay of this race car, and it's still very, very close to a production engine. Basically has a fancy catch can as far as I can see. Still lots and lots of stock components on this engine. So I think that there's a very good chance that when this comes out as an STI, if and when it comes out, but it seems, I mean, they were referring to it as a future production car. Probably it's going to make 375 horsepower. Now that's at the flywheel, not at the wheels, but that's a big jump up from where we are currently. Ironically, it's the same amount of power that the Trailseeker makes. That kind of fits. Now, here's the huge announcement that they made at this, which is that Subaru is going to run a BRZ in the All Japan Rally this year, 2026, but it's going to be all-wheel drive. And I believe they said it's got basically an inline engine in it, and this sent shockwaves through, and we're rushing to record this because it's really starting to get a lot of steam because this is a huge announcement. And in my opinion, this has created a lot of puzzle pieces to fall into place, and I'm going to try and lay out what I think this all amounts to here for you as best as I can. But there's a lot of pieces to this, but stay with me. This is huge because this, at the end, I believe, is how Subaru is getting back into the WRC. Let's go back all the way to 2023. The head of the FIA, Mohammed bin Sulayem, met with Akio Toyota. And what they were talking about was how can we get more manufacturers into the WRC? And Toyota said, again, head of Toyota, I guess now he's like head of the board, but he's not president. I don't know. He's basically in charge of Toyota and Gazoo Racing. He says, well, we're going to supply an engine to Subaru because that's the biggest issue. They don't have an engine that complies with the WRC requirements. That's why they can't enter. This is 2023. Go to 2024. You may remember or may have heard there's some rumors about Toyota putting the GR Corolla drivetrain into a GT86. Well, in SEMA 2024, Toyota actually reached out to Evasive Motorsports to do exactly that, to swap the GR Corolla drivetrain, engine and drivetrain, into a GR86 for SEMA. Evasive Motorsports built this car. Larry Chen did a multiple video documentary series on how they built this car. And basically, the wheelbase seems to be the same between the BRZ and the GR Corolla. Everything went in. In fact, this concept car or project car even used the full front suspension from the GR Corolla with a custom subframe, though the rear suspension was BRZ on this concept. It was 2024. You know what they called it? They called it a Celica. And they basically did it up to look like the Celica that Toyota had won the WRC championship with back in the 90s. The Celica, that's important because Toyota has now patented the brand or the name Celica again. So stay with me here. Now we come forward a little bit. Again, and this whole time there were rumors that Toyota was looking at doing this. One of the videos that Larry Chen made, he's interviewing the contact from Toyota that was basically headed up the project, and I asked him, was this your idea? And he says, actually, no, I'm basically just the project manager. This came straight from Gazoo Racing. Gazoo Racing reached out and said, hey, you've got to do this. Now, again, remember, Akio Toyota says they're going to supply Subaru with an engine and powertrain for Subaru to get back into the WRC. It's called Celica. All right, now present day at the Super Taikyu race, Tetsuo Fujiniki, who is the CTO of Subaru, he's on the board. He is a very high-level Subaru executive. There was a few very high-level Subaru executives at this Super Taikyu race for this presentation. So I think this has very high level of significance. Says that Subaru's coming back in with this all-wheel drive BRZ, and there's just a computer rendering of it. Toyota has been testing their new rally car for the 2027 WRC rules. There's some footage of this car out there running, and they're calling it a Celica, and it looks exactly like the all-wheel drive BRZ that they showed a picture of at this Super Taikyu Motorsports announcement. So what it strongly appears to be is that Subaru is going to get into the WRC, not with the WRX, not with an STI, with a BRZ. Who knows what they're going to call it at the moment, but I'm going to say it's a BRZ, all-wheel drive, that is basically going to be the equivalent of the Toyota Celica. Pull back even further, where this makes sense. There's all this talk where Toyota and Subaru are going to split on the GR86, and Toyota was going to work with Mazda for the next generation. Again, all of a sudden, this falls into place as well, because that's going to be a small rear-wheel drive car, and it sounds like whatever the BRZ is, it's going to be the Celica with Toyota, and those are going to be WRC cars. They're all-wheel drive cars. In a future podcast, which you're going to see hopefully in a couple of days, I had a discussion with Art, Tanner, and Dewey about the role that the BRZ, or the fit of the BRZ in the Subaru lineup, and kind of like, does it make sense, does not make sense. All of a sudden, this makes total sense, because if the BRZ is all-wheel drive, or at least available as an all-wheel drive car, now it totally fits with Subaru going forward. So I think this is all the pieces of the puzzle for what the BRZ is going to be, how it's going to be paired with the Celica, and how Subaru is going to get back into the WRC probably as 2027. So my guess is that we're going to see the announcement probably very late this year, early next year is 2027. It's going to come out as a 28-year production model, but they're probably going to run it in 27 as an early production, something like that. That basically is strongly what it appears to be falling into place. And now everything, all of these rumors about Toyota and Mazda and the BRZ and everything, it all kind of falls into place and makes sense. And it's very exciting. Now, at this press conference, and this YouTube channel, Love Cars, he gets phenomenal access to Subaru. And so this is a channel that I'm now paying very close attention to, and I think you should as well. When he's interviewing Mr. Fujiniki, one of the other things that he mentions is that in Subaru, there's been a, he called it a barrier or a wall between the motorsport side of Subaru and then the production side of Subaru, and they're trying to remove that. This kind of makes sense looking at the Super Taikyu car, where maybe more like production engineers are going to be involved with the race program and vice versa, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to connect what they're doing with the race cars more with their production cars. This is very exciting because, well, I mean, it's just cooler cars, cooler Subarus, lots more to get excited about. If Subaru has this BRZ that is in the WRC car, and whatever they're going to do with the STI, which it seems like at least it's going to be a 375 horsepower four-cylinder engine, that's cool. What are they doing with this BRZ GT300 with this six-cylinder engine? I'm not even going to speculate at this point, but I think there's got to be some method to that madness, and it's going to land in something, and that's also very cool. I mean, this could make Subaru one of the most exciting enthusiast brands if they land this plane, and it seems like Subaru is really taking seriously going down this path of racing motorsports and using that to enrich the brand with exciting platforms and hopefully make all the other cars that they have to offer better too. So that is the long and the short of it. There's so much going on in this video. I encourage you to go over and check it out. We'll put a link to that in the description, the other walk-around video where they talk about the specs of the engine. Yeah, there's a lot here to go through, but it's very exciting. I think all of this is very exciting news for us as Subaru enthusiasts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you're excited about the idea of an all-wheel drive BRZ rally car. I mean, how cool is that? And Subaru and Toyota battling it out in the WRC. I think there's so much good to come of this. But now, like in my mind, what does this mean for the STI, for the WRX? I don't know. Could be a good thing. Could open up a lot of possibilities. Could make sense of like a 3-liter twin-turbo engine, maybe more in an STI. Who knows? So that's where we're at. That is the latest news. This is a big one. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for your support as always. And until next time, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.